Hi, welcome back to day number 10. This will be. So, today was a rather fascinating episode because it has me and Ray realizing that we'd had different approaches to the same topic. And actually, we just went with it on today's episode because she had an interpretation, I had a different one. And they kind of both worked for what we want to talk about. And it gives you different perspectives, and they do end up tying in at the end. So, don't worry if we seem to be talking about two different things, because actually the way that they tie in and the interest that they give means that this topic can be quite valuable for you where you're at now and what you may need to work on to get yourself going for 2025. And this one does have a lot of value in it. So enjoy, and here's the episode. All right, do you want to stop and then start again? Where do you go? So, you do it.
Welcome to the Identity Human Podcast with your hosts. Don.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know, because I was talking in like a low, husky voice. But welcome to the Identity Human Podcast with your hosts, Ray
and Don. Thanks for joining us.
Why are you getting me to do the intro?
Why not? I'm actually asking the kids that a lot lately. Daddy, why should I do this? And I say, why shouldn't you?
And we're on episode number 10.
Oh, we made it. Or you made it. Well done. Well, actually,
done for making
you know what?
It this far.
Well done for making this far, but well done for making it this far. We did it. Right? And yes, we are in our
Christmas
attire, even though this is getting released after Christmas. And in all truth, we're recording this after Christmas.
Well,
because we prioritized what needed to be done, and we knew that we'd always have this time.
There's also technically the 12 days of Christmas begin, did I say on Christmas, and they run to like the 3rd of Jan. So like, but 12 days of Christmas is around this funny limbo time of year.
Yeah, what does it even mean?
Thought we would jump into your headphones and give you some inspiration.
Or your car speakers.
Give you some inspiration for
your family TV, because you like watching us with the kids.
Hi.
On YouTube. No, so what are we speaking about today? So today is around an A or B mindset and how this can limit your possibilities and where does it get you?
And to help you, hopefully, to identify where in your life have you been like, well, I have to have A or B, instead of thinking I can have A and B. So we want to change that or to an and for you.
Interesting. That's also a different spin on it, because it's like another way we can actually approach this is it's going, unless it's this way, I can't have it at all. So, which we'll get to.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how I was always interpreting it. And then I realized, because that's something that resonates with you and me, and you see other people doing it. And that's where, like, say, perfectionism in the now comes in, or the, like with gas, it was either worldwide or nothing. So I'm not even going to bother going to a school and doing a talk.
So we write little bullet points of things we want to discuss in episodes. And Don wrote an example that we'll get to. And I was like, why is he bringing that in? I'm not seeing the link. I'm sure he'll explain. So what we're talking around in this episode is how an A or B mindset limits your possibilities. And I was very much like, well, you're getting told that you have to choose between two options, but why can't you have both? But you take it like a totally different angle, and I love it.
We are. It's what interpretation, right?
So should we explore the A or B versus A and B, and then jump into yours, or how do you
do you know what I do like? Actually, let's go with your way first, because it does break limiting beliefs, and that's the whole point of us going to 2025. And then perhaps if we don't get time, we can dedicate a whole episode to my approach. By the way, this is authentic, and this is how we do it, so we're not going to edit this out.
And what the main focus when we bullet pointed out this episode, I think we're going to be giving you a lot of examples from our personal life, because what we are hoping that we'll achieve is to help you identify where in your life you have this mindset and it's holding you back. So by giving some examples that will, help you to identify that in your life. So
you go first.
Let's talk about, it was about 3 years ago when we first, over time, so we've been in the UK, Don and I have been in the UK for 10 years now. And our current house, we've been in for 3 years. And each time we have been very fortunate to like climb up the property ladder and move into bigger and more interesting houses. So we moved into this lovely big house. And it might have even been in our house before, but we've always like enjoyed like entertaining, like having a nice home to like entertain our friends. It's like a big driver. And we would, so part of that is like investing money into doing up parts of the house so that we can entertain
Well, and
better.
it's my way of creating some solid ground
Yes.
because I've moved so much.
So, and Don wanted like a home that really attracted
Like
people.
a
That was
castle.
like a core, yes. Like a core drawing people in, and like
It's also
just a
like
central
a
hub.
safety zone too.
Yes.
Like you're going to entertain loads of people, but actually it's also where we can come in and we know it's our space.
Yeah. And so about 3-4 years ago, like we've been working on these houses and we hadn't been able to travel much because Don was playing professional rugby.
Well, I traveled a lot.
Yeah, you travel a lot, but the family did. I was like, I really want to book more holidays. And Don said to me, well, you either choose a nice home or holidays. And I said, why? We're going to have a nice home and go on lots of nice holidays.
It was more because I think it was around the time where I was like, we just got something done in the house, like knock the walls down and spend some money. And then Ray was like, oh, let's go on a holiday. And I was like, well, no, we've just spent all of this money to improve our house. And now we're not going to spend any time enjoying the things that we've done to the house.
And I said, we'll enjoy the house when we are here, but we also should be going on nice holidays. So it was very much like, it was realizing that this is a simple one in our marriage that we identified where one of us was like, no, we've chosen the house and now we're going to just enjoy the house. I'm like, well, no, we can enjoy both.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just one that we picked up. And then was another one about a couple of years ago when you started going into business.
Yeah, and it is the classic things of you can't run a successful business or be a good leader.
And in fact, Don's mentors kind of almost indirectly told him this, like, or gave him that vibe that like you
wasn't
how can you stop and be at every school pickup in the afternoons? Like, how are you going to have a successful business doing that?
Yeah.
As if
we didn't finish a successful business and be a present parent.
Yeah. So the second example we're giving is this idea that you can't have a successful business and be a present parent. And so
so it's like, they've got young kids, they're not going to be able to do much in the business.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a limiting belief.
Yeah.
Because since then, I think I came home and Ray was the classic was like, well, why not?
Well, no, but how it wasn't so much of like, oh, why not? I remember it being that I then started saying to Don, okay, great, you retired from rugby, let's try only work school hours. And you were like, you were just getting mentored at that time, and you were like, I don't think I can have a successful business and only work school hours. Like you were like,
yeah, because I was like, everyone else is working till 5. There's networking events happening in the evening. I should be doing so much more. And then I was like, look, this is why my business is not going to be successful. Classic, I'll blame everything else but my ability to work with what I've got. And then that Ray, and I think that came up like 5 or 6 times. It wasn't just I came home, said it, and Ray was like, well, why not?
And this was like played out over like 6 months.
Yeah. So when you're listening to this, if you recognize it, you're not just going to change that viewpoint over a night. But you've got to have somewhere within you that goes, well, why can't I have both?
And it's funny how the ego or the limiting beliefs play out, because I would say to you, but I built Route to Growth, my accounting practice, only in school hours. And you would be like, but it's a different business. It's but this, but that. And so you come up almost to like protect yourself and keep yourself safe, so that you come up with these reasons why the scenario doesn't apply to you.
It's so much easier to say it's different than to take responsibility, though.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm picking on you on these
go
examples.
for it.
But they're just recent examples that I've thought of where I've been like, but you can, it's so possible to grow and have a successful business, but also be like, well, what's important to me is my kids and my family, and I only want to work school hours. Like both of those can exist in the same realm. And that was one that we worked through.
There's also a big element of finding, this is where we say, like, find your way of doing things and do everything it takes to do that. So, I mean, for example, it sounds great, all the stuff we're talking about, but what are some of the things that I had to enforce to actually go, no, I will be at pickup? And that's like, if a client books in a whole day and it's on my kid's sports day, I said, I'm going to be late because I'm going to go to the sports day first. And that's quite big. You're starting out business. You don't have that many clients just lining up to do stuff. And they go, we can only do this day. And I go, well, I'm going to pitch up at 12 o'clock.
It's bold. It takes bold music, like it's going to feel uncomfortable to push through some of these like A or B mindsets and change them to A and B.
But you can only do them when you know what you stand for. And I think that's the important part about what we're trying to do here, is build you up to know what you stand for and get your life that you want and do everything it takes to get that, regardless of what the people that have gone before you are saying as to why you can't do it. And that's what the A or B. So all of the, from your interpretation of A or B, are things that someone else has told you you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it. And so it's so easy because they tried and they failed because they had someone else telling them they didn't. And no one along the line's gone, well, why can't I have both? Why can't I be a millionaire and be like happy and surrounded by friends and only work X amount of hours? It's like, well, that just is unrealistic in your way.
Yes.
And so that's where like everything that you've now collected as an A or B mindset, every bias that you've got, this is what we're trying to say, start to question it.
And I have a great piece of little like homework or an exercise they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to share it now or later?
No, go for it now.
So what Don and I would like to challenge you to do, like we set a little
Us,
5 minute task.
we would. I know exactly what's
I know
coming
you'll
up
agree
now.
with this because you've heard it before. Is I want you to again sit down with your journal, your piece of paper, and I want you to be really honest with yourself and try and list like about 3 to 5 examples minimum of where you have an A or B mindset. You're telling yourself, well, I can't have that and that. Or
I'm trying to think of some other examples that would like, I can't work out and have a successful business. I can't dedicate all my time to my business and prioritize myself. Because that's a big one. Like,
well, I can't have a successful business and get 8 hours of sleep.
I can't go and run a marathon and have a family and my business.
Yes.
So any of the things that you go, I can't do this because of, that's A or B mindset. So I can't go to sleep at 10 o'clock because I only put the kids down at 8 and then I need my time at 8. And so anything that you think of, just type I can't and then see what comes up. I can't have X because of Y. Whatever comes up, just write it down. Don't try and prove it right or wrong. Just write down as many as you can.
I have a part 2 to this exercise that's really important. Take one of those, whichever one resonates with you the most, circle it. Okay, and that's the one we're going to work on now. And for the next 2 or 3 days, I want you to look for evidence that that is not true. It can be the smallest thing, because what you need to do is you need to take your subconscious, because your subconscious has got like a pathway and it's saying, well, sorry, that's the truth. You can't have both. And I want you to find just any example, evidence that that is not true. You could use Don and I if we told you saying that we do that, you maybe feel like you can't, like that is impossible to have both, or look on social media, like hunt it out. Okay, look for an example that is not true and write down those examples, because all you need to do is create that crack in your logic for your subconscious to actually realize that there is something else possible out there for you. So
as long as someone else has done it, you can do it too.
Yeah. So just find a little bits of evidence that it's possible.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to interrupt there quickly. And as much as I would happily be sitting here on budgies and saying this is as authentic as I come, if you're watching the video, I have nose tape on, I have my headphones on because I'm in editing mode. That's okay though. This isn't the pretty part. This is the part where I remind you, come and join the challenge, right? So you should be listening to this just before it starts. You still have time. Genuinely, what are you waiting for? If you've listened this far and you haven't joined in, there's a reason that you listen this far. And I want you to come in, and I genuinely know that I guarantee you I will change something about the way you see things. I will help you change your life for the better. That's what there's a guarantee. And if I don't, keep talking to me until we do. Okay, that's what it's in place for. I truly believe in this process. I truly believe in what we have to offer and the energy that we give and what we can do for you. And remember, it's not just about you. It's about everyone that you interact with, whether that be family, friends, or work colleagues, or anything that you've got. Like, you're here for a reason. You've got some talent. You've got potential. You have a purpose and a gift. So come, let's do something. Let's take some action, and let's try and make a difference to ourselves first and foremost, and then to those around us. All right. I look forward to seeing the challenge. I'm going to hold you to this. And then I put an example. Is this the example that you were thinking of earlier?
So now, we fleshed out the whole A or B thing. I would love to, it'd be great to dive into.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes.
Yeah,
we got 5 minutes.
Into the way you kind of saw this whole A or B mindset limiting possibilities.
So I saw it as an all-in mindset.
Okay.
And it's where, if with gas, it was all in. So we're going to go global. So therefore, which CEO am I meeting?
Gas was Don's first company, which is an e-commerce business where he wanted to have this massive global impact, like inspiring gamers to live a healthier way of life. And so this big global vision, and it was called the Gaming Athlete GAS. So
yeah, and so it was that. So instead of looking at something really small and doing it, I was like, well, it's too small. I want to go big. So what you end up starting to look at is, I don't even know where to start, because I'm all in here. I'm trying to achieve perfection. And when you have that type of mindset, you stop taking action because you only take action when it's perfect. So it's an all-in mindset instead of realizing that actually we're getting there. And so how do we recognize that I'm either in or I'm out? So if you're looking at, say, running or starting exercise, you might have an example of an A or B mindset. Well, I don't run because I can't run 20 kilometers. I don't run because I can't run 3 days a week.
Yeah, I don't run because I can't run 5 days a week.
I don't run because I can't run that well. Or I'm so unfit that I'm not going to run.
So like it's people almost like allow the extreme to put them off from just starting small.
Because they feel like they're either in or they're out. But actually you can warm yourself up. You can put your toe in and you can dip it out. You can put your foot in, you can dip it out. But actually it's kind of the analogy of you're either jumping into the pool or you're not getting in at all, because you want to stay in for a long time. So if you're thinking about exercise, if you're thinking about communication, or, starting your own business, you don't have to quit your job and go all in. You can start to work on things on the side.
That's a big, scary step. How can you be like, the extreme doesn't have to exist for me to move forward with this?
And some of the notes you said there is, it does limit your possibilities. Is because if you can't achieve the all-in goal, you then don't try it at all.
Yeah.
So, Shaz that lives with us, it's trying to get her to start running. She really wants to, but she goes for a run and she feels so unfit that she says, no, I'm not a runner. That's like an all-in mindset. It's like, I'm all in, right? I've done a run. I felt terrible. I can't run, so therefore I'm not doing it. It's like, well, actually, that's just the start. You don't have to now go and buy all the other gear, and you don't have to run 5 times a week. Like, just start one week at a time.
Another example, someone said, is like a diet thing. But I'm hopefully by giving this example, you can think of other areas in your life. People go like, well, unless I can eat perfectly all week and like not have a little treat out there, then they're like, oh, well, I've already had that cake or that piece of chocolate, so I'm just going to eat a whole lot because this week's not perfect. I'm going to write it off. I'm going to start from scratch again. So it's like, unless it's perfect, I'm not going to carry on.
Or you start to have a piece of chocolate, then you have another one, then you have another one, and you're like, well, I can't do the no chocolate thing, so I'm not going to try it at all.
Yes. And that's where A or B in a different way. You're saying, well, either I have the perfect week or I'm just going to go wild.
Either I eat no sugar, no carbs, and I drink water, or I can't do it at all. And that's going to be demonizing yourself because you're trying too much, too soon, too quickly.
So suppose like the A or Bs that we've spoken about at the start of this episode to now are actually very different, but they fall under one blanket or one overarching principle, which is identifying limiting beliefs in your life, beliefs or ways of thinking that are stopping you from achieving.
And they are often given to you via you or you via. So the one example we haven't spoken about, which is a big one, is for me, is someone said, oh, you're a nice guy, therefore you won't make it in rugby, you're too nice. But I ended up playing for England.
Yeah.
So it was one of those where it's like, just because you're a nice guy doesn't mean you can't make it in a way that's different to any of the other knobheads that have gone and made it before, if that makes sense. Yeah. Which I kind of disagree with that. Yeah. But I think it's one of those where just because someone types you as something or sees you in one way or has an observation, remember it's their observation, not the observation. Yes. So if you remember it's theirs, remember that's their point of view with their emotions, their experiences, and they may have tried it and failed. They may have seen 3 other nice guys that didn't make it. But there's so much more to it than just what they see. So critically think for yourself, keep going. And actually, it always comes back down to that desire thing. Like, do you really want this? If you do, any limiting you believe you will break.
And the funny thing about limiting beliefs that you must remember is that you're probably carrying a whole lot with you from your past, from your childhood, from your years of development that you need to clear off. But your job's never done when it comes to limiting beliefs, because just living in the world today, people are going to be pushing ideas on you the whole time, and you will be adopting new limiting beliefs. So you really have to get into a practice, and that's what that exercise that we gave you to do, a practice of identifying where in your life are you thinking a certain way and it's stopping you being able to achieve what you want to achieve, and then working on looking for evidence that proves that that way of thinking doesn't have to be true.
That's nice. And I think every time you step through one limiting belief, you're into the unknown. And when you're in unknown, you're going to adopt a whole lot of new limiting beliefs from the people around you.
Interesting, yeah.
Because you don't know any better.
Yes.
So then you get your accidental mentors, you get your confirmation biases that like, oh, I've come this far, I'm not meant to. So I could say something that starts to bubble up now for me lately is it's going, well, have I had the background that allows me to make it to the next level that I need in terms of the education, like didn't go to private school, played rugby, haven't had the 10-year head start in business and understanding all that language, all that. It's like those things, now that I've made it to a certain level, I go, is this the highest that I can achieve? Because I look at people who have been successful and they have something that's natural. They've had a different upbringing, and you start to create your own. Your ego will start to create
it's always
its
to
own
keep you
limiting
safe.
beliefs.
Your ego's trying to be like, how can I create a reason for why this isn't going to work so that I'm protected for when it doesn't work. And so your ego is always going to be trying to find these things that will protect you. And the idea is to be present to them so that you can move them on.
So I'm going to bring in something we learned in America.
Yeah.
Because this is the last minute. This will help you the most. So when you identify limiting belief,
slower. You're getting
I got so excited. Sorry.
Squeeze it in.
I got excited. And Ray's exercise is great, but what happens when you're on the fly and those limiting beliefs come up and you recognize them?
Mm-hmm.
They referenced Air Force One.
Okay.
And so Air Force One was when the president's plane gets hijacked, and the end scene is Harrison Ford. He's about to get rid of the last hijack, and he wraps a parachute cord around the guy's neck. And just before he pulls the cord so that it expands and the parachute catches the back of the plane wind and gets the guy off the plane, he says, "Get off my plane." So then they said, every time you feel a limiting belief or something, just say, "Get off my plane." And that's a way of like acknowledging like this
like
isn't something
embody
I
that
want
like
to.
Harrison Ford
So,
energy. And like in your mind, you've got this belief and it's like making you feel stuck. Just talk to yourself and be like, get off my plane. Like, I know I've identified this doesn't need to be here. So move it on. And it takes that kind of energy behind it.
So get off my plane. Every time you hear a limiting belief and someone else has put it in your head or you discover for yourself, get off my plane. Okay. So remember, we're going to drag it to the end there. That is just over 20 minutes. Sorry about that again. I am who I am because you are. I am who I am, and that is enough. I am.
That's one of the phrases on practices. So he slipped up.
All right. I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me. All right. Have a great day. Remember, Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. That was it. Cheers.